All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Robert Badawi. I'm a product manager on the platform team of Dynamics 365 for Operations. Today, in this session, I will talk about managing the data lifecycle of Dynamics 365 for Operations. I'm going to refer to it as X7 sometimes, so forgive me. It's just a mouthful saying the whole product name. And I'll talk about the data lifecycle, and I'll talk mostly about the processes and tools that we provide to help you in the data lifecycle as you're doing your AX7 implementations. Just a show of hands, who is familiar in the audience with data management in finance and operations at all in Dynamics 365? Just one. OK, good. Makes it nice and introductory. Do we have more customers or partners in the audience? Customers? Couple. Partners? I guess half-half. OK, so let's get started. I will start by introducing the tool set and some concepts. It sets the stage for what the data management framework is and the problems these tools are trying to solve. And then I'll go into the data lifecycle and what are the tools and processes that we give you to get your data from the beginning of the lifecycle to the end and achieve and basically go live. So the lifecycle starts when you configure new data. Then I'll talk about migrating data from legacy systems. Then I'll talk about cutover, which is the process when the legacy system is down. And this is a time-sensitive process where you need to move the final data from your legacy system to the new one. Then I'll talk about tools that help you in the go-live process, especially data-related tools. And then what are the post-go-live and database operations we support once your system is live. So I'm going to try to go into some details into each of these stages. But I'll first start by introducing the concepts and the tool sets. When you purchase finance and operations, you are in a lifecycle services implementation project. This slide gives you a sample of the landscapes of a typical implementation. By default, with your standard subscription, you get 3 environments. You get a Tier 1 dev or build box. You get a Tier 2 sandbox, which you can use for data migration as well. And you also get on-premise VMs to develop on them. You also obviously get a production environment with your implementation. But a typical implementation also includes an additional sandbox, especially to separate the UAT process from the data migration, and also possibly another Tier 1 dev box used for your golden configuration, which we're going to get to. So this slide represents this typical landscape of the environments available in a LCS implementation. With finance and operations, there are several frameworks and tools that help you achieve the goal of importing, exporting, and moving data, basically, between environments. There's the data management framework. The data management framework is what used to be known as the DIXF framework, the Data Import and Export Framework. It has been rebranded, renamed in Dynamics 365. It helps you do data migration. It helps you importing and exporting data. It helps you define templates and data projects for moving data across environment. The second set of tools are things that are available from lifecycle services. Is the audience familiar with what lifecycle services is here? LCS? No one or no one? OK. So lifecycle services is a portal. And there's a session on lifecycle services. Actually, I highly recommend it. On Friday, it talks about all the tools available in lifecycle services for Dynamics 365 for Operations. It's a portal that helps you with all of your ALM processes during your implementations. You can deploy environments. You can service environments. You can download hotfixes. You can start your implementation, do fit gap analysis. So it is your implementation portal to the Dynamics 365 for implementation world. So within lifecycle services, we also allow you some operations to move data. That is in addition to the data management framework. And data, what I mean by data here, I'm talking about movement of databases between production, sandbox, and so on. There is also a tool in LCS, in Lifecycle Services, called Configuration Manager. That is in addition to the data management framework that also allows you to apply data packages on sandbox or production environments. So an important concept in this whole thing is the concept of data entities. So on the left side, you have a normalized view of tables in finance and operations. It's basically everything that constitutes what a customer record is. These tables are normalized, but from a data management perspective, they're represented by a data entity, which is a denormalized view of a customer, which is the account number in this example, customer group, bank account, party number, name, and so on. This denormalized view is the main vehicle to move data in and out of the system. It's the lowest level concept of our data management framework. We ship about 1,900 data entities out of the box, but as part of our development tools, you can create your own data entities and customize existing data entities as well. So it is an abstraction and an encapsulation on the underlying table schemas. There's different levels of aggregation to the concepts of our data management framework. As I said, at the lowest level, we have the data entity, which is a denormalized view of an entity, like a customer is a good example. Then on top of it, we have the concept of a data template. And if some of you are familiar with the process of moving data, one of the hardest things for successful data migration or configuration is what groups do we move data in? What order of data do you enter into the system? What are the data packages or the data that can happen in parallel because they don't depend on each other? And what are data entities or tables that have to be configured in sequence for successful implementation? So in this case, the concept of a data template, which exists in finance and operation, allows you to order entities, make a data project out of entities, and specify execution sequence, and also specify what entities belong to a unit, and what entity belong to another unit, and what are the entities that can be executed or entered into the system in parallel or in sequence. It's the main knowledge. If you think about it, it's metadata around how your data is supposed to be configured and in the order it should. Once you define a data template, the next level is your data package. A data package is really your data template, but with the data with it. So, or you can think of a data template as the data package without the data itself. So a data package is an instance of a data template, but that also has the data from your system. So typically, you would create a data template, or you'll use some of the data templates out of the box, and you'll create a data package out of it, which is portable across systems, and you can take it and move it into another system, and so on. A data package is basically a set of entities that come from the data template that it created it. We actually ship 250 data packages out of the box today, and we are planning to ship more. On top of a data package, we have the concept of a process data package. So again, we're going higher level in abstraction. So we like our implementations to happen with a business process point of view. So you would start by configuring anything related to procure to pay, then maybe to warehouse management, then you'd configure your bank accounts or system data and so on. So the lifecycle services tool provides the concept of a business process library, and you can attach data packages to every business process, and you can implement or apply your data configurations using a process-based approach. So again, these are all aggregations on top of the basic concept of a data entity. Any questions so far? For those who haven't used LCS or AX7, this sounds like a lot of conceptual, but I thought it's good to introduce all of these, because as you start getting familiar with the system, you have to start with the concepts first. Okay. So the first stage of the life cycle is configuring new data. You're starting with your implementation. You need to configure new data. What is a configuration? The way we define it, it is a data package made up of a large number of entities. It's portable between environments or between instances of Dynamics 365 for finance and operation. It is based on a template, so it's sequenced so that all import dependencies are considered, and you can import it in one pass. There are configurations that we ship out of the box that are pre-validated, that have been tested and guaranteed, or I would say guaranteed to work at least on the demo data we have tried to work in one go. But all the dependencies between the data entities and the sequence they need to run into are within this configuration. Configurations are focused on a golden build concept, which is the golden database you start with before you start entering more migrated data into your system. And as I mentioned, they're based on configuration templates. Parameters, number sequences, general ledgers, reference data, and others are typical configurations that we ship out of the box. What we have done over the last 3 to 4 months, and this information would probably be relevant to folks who have experience in the data management framework of AX7, but I'll focus also on the old and the new, because of the audience seems to be new to the system or to Dynamics 365. We have a data management framework that allows you to import and export data packages, as I mentioned, to define templates. But recently, we made improvements to the user interface to allow you to define data templates in an easier way. We added a new tool that is strictly based on data packages and the data management framework to allow you to copy data from one legal entity to the other. As part of creating new configurations or even post-go lives, it is a typical scenario where you have a new legal entity. There's a new company, you go into a new place, and you have to establish a new company. So the ability to move master data or reference data or parameter data between one company and the other is a very common scenario, and we have added the capability to do so from the user interface. We also spent a lot of time developing templates and shipping templates, data templates for you to help in your configurations. So what exists today in the data management framework is the ability to import and export data packages. So you have an existing legal entity, you export data packages out of it, and you import it in another system. This has existed for a while in X7 or Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. What also exists today is a data sharing or a data sync framework that allows you to replicate at real time specific fields and tables, specific tables or entities between legal entities in your instance. What we have added, and this happens over the last 2 months, which was platform update 8 of finance and operations, is the ability to ship portable configurations out of the box. These are based on templates that are defined with the correct sequence and the correct execution level. And these configurations can be exported and imported into any environment. And as I mentioned, we added the tool to do a copy from one legal entity into one or more legal entities as well. So here's an overview of how you create configurations. And this goes further and actually asks you and goes into creating a process-based or business process-based configuration. You create new data templates in Dynamics 365 for operations. Once you create the data templates, you can either create them from scratch or import ones that we ship via lifecycle services. There are data templates that we make available for you. Once you create those data templates, you can export data packages out of these templates. These data packages can be uploaded to LCS. You will create a business process library in LCS. You will associate these data packages with the business process library. And then you have what we call a process data package, which is a set of data packages, each of them associated with a specific business process that you can distribute if you're a partner to your customer, or if you're a customer that is doing an implementation that you can use for repeatable implementations or repeatable configurations. And all of these tools are available from our client, either the AX7 client or the Lifecycle Services client. So once you have created a configuration, you need to apply it to an environment to create a golden configuration. This, at the end of the day, is a database that is the starting unit of your implementation, the starting database of your implementation. So you can use Lifecycle Services, or you can use the data management workspace in Dynamics 365 for operations to apply configurations to an existing environment. There are plenty of tools. I'm going to demo a couple right now in a little bit. Once you apply a configuration to your target environment, this is the golden configuration, you go and also use the data management workspace to review and refine the data. You can make slight changes. You might, for example, if you run into errors, anything related to data will get stuck in staging tables. There's the concept of staging tables. So if data cannot be imported, it stays in staging tables. You can go and inspect the data that you were not able to import and act upon it, either by ignoring it or change some validation rule and so on. So there's a process of refining the data that you have imported right after you apply the configuration. And last, you would copy configurations across legal entities. So if you have more than one legal entity in your implementation, you will take specific configurations and you'll copy them across legal entity. So this is a typical process on how you configure data, and we have tools in LCS and AX7 or Finance and Operations client, as I mentioned, to help you go through this cycle. And once a golden configuration is created, you have a database. If you're starting on a tier 1 environment, which is usually a development environment or a demo environment, the database is SQL Server. We have tools in Lifecycle Services that allow you to upload this database into a tier 2 environment and convert it into a SQL Azure database. A tier 2 environment is a pre-production environment. It's a multi-box environment. It is typically the environment that you use as your UAT or as your pre-production before you actually go live. This is the data management workspace in Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operation. It allows you to manage all what we call data projects. There are different types of data projects. There are import projects, export projects, projects to copy between legal entities, as I mentioned. There are configuration projects, integration projects, and other. But at the end of the day, a project is always translated into a data package. So they all use the same framework. It is using the framework of data packages and a collection of data entities to move data either across instances using import and export, or across legal entities, across companies using the copy LE. This data management workspace also allows you to create new data templates or to edit existing data templates. And there's other configuration tools you can do from this workspace. In the Lifecycle Services portal, which, as I mentioned, is the portal to manage the lifecycle of your implementation, where you can deploy environments, service environment, et cetera. We also allow a data configuration tool from the Lifecycle Services site, where you actually can apply either concurrently or sequentially a set of data packages that are part of what we call your asset library. So in a lot of cases, if you manage your data packages in the Lifecycle Services portal, you don't actually need to go to the actual finance and operations environment to apply your initial data configurations. You store them in what we call the asset library in lifecycle services, and you can use the configuration and data manager tool to apply them to as many instances as you have in your implementation. So it's another facility on top of the data management framework. Any question? It's a very silent audience today. Let me get to a demo, hopefully to put a picture on a couple of the words. Of course, my laptop decided to. So what I'm showing here is the data management workspace in an instance of finance and operations. Let me go to the templates. Out of the box, your instance comes with a predefined set of templates that we make available, just standard. In addition to what you get out of the box, we will be shipping continuously via lifecycle services new sets of templates and updated templates that you can always import into your system. But right here, as you can see, we have a system setup template, general ledger template, template related to workflow entities, bank, accounts payable, tax, and all of these can be used as part of your initial configurations. And as I said, templates are, you can think of them as metadata around the entities and how they should be applied to a particular system. So in this case, I'm looking at the system setup one, for example, and that template contains all of these entities, address entities, currencies, name affixes, organization hierarchy, relationship types, user group, et cetera, exchange rate. And the second column here is the execution unit. And a little bit about what this means. Execution unit, whenever templates belong to the same execution unit, it means they actually are executed together. So if you put a data entity as a part of a second execution unit, it means they can actually execute in parallel. They don't have any dependencies between them. And the second column here is the level in execution unit. Within every execution unit, you can also define entities that execute together and entities that have to execute at a later stage. So within execution unit 1, the entities that are at level 10 execute together. Actually, this example, all of them are at level 10, so there are no dependencies between them. Let me pick another one, for example, here in the bank template. You can see that there are different levels in the execution unit. So the bank facilities group entity has to be applied before the bank facility types and et cetera. So this is how you define your execution sequence. And also, within a particular level, you have a sequence of entities. So this provides you a lot of flexibility. And because of this concept of execution unit and execution levels, you can actually merge templates. You can create a template out of merging two. And it allows you a lot of flexibility and power into how data entities have to be applied to your system. So enough about data entities, enough about templates. Let me show an example of how you could create a project that actually copies data from one legal entity to the other using a template. So I will go and click on copy into legal entity. I'm creating a data project or a job. Let's say copy into LE. Test. The data project type is a copy into legal entity, and my source legal entity is this USMF company. I also want to copy number sequences. I select this one. and then I select the legal entities or the companies I want to copy to. I've created some test companies just for the sake of this demo. I will select this one, add selected. Let me add another one. I will select that second one. And once I select my target legal entity, these are new legal entities I added to my system, I can go and I can either start manually adding data entities to my project. So if I know exactly what entities I want and I know how to sequence them, I can do it. But even better, if I have templates that I know have been pre-validated and work in the right sequence and the right dependencies, I can add a template. For example, let me search for a costing. It's not here. It was here a little bit ago. Here it is. And when you add a template, you can either say replace or merge. So if you already have a template that you added to your project, you can just replace it. Or when you say merge and you are adding more than one template, it actually understands, it merges the sequence, the execution unit, and the level within the sequence that allows also a smooth, basically, execution of this data package. So once I say OK, it finds all the legal entities that are part of this template, and it actually also remembers their execution level, their level in the execution, and the sequence they need to be. So now I can save that data project, and at any time I can click a button and I can apply it. You can also apply it in an automated batch mode that can happen periodically and so on. So there are multiple ways to apply any data project, either by creating a recurring data job or by actually applying it directly. So I've saved that one. Now it appears in my data projects, and it's ready to execute. Another typical scenario of data configuration is once you have a data template, you create what I call an export project. And this export project also is a set of data entities. Same story. You can either add the data entities manually, or you can create them based on templates. The project will look like this. This is one that I created earlier. Once you have it ready, you can either export it directly or create a recurring data job that exports it in batch mode. So if you export that project, and you refresh, as you can see, it's executing. So the output of this is a data package. The data package is really a zip file of CSV files within that zip file. Every CSV is your data. Every entity is represented by a CSV file or an Excel file. There's also, the project also contains a manifest that describes the template, like in what order the entities have to be applied and so on. So let me see if it's done. I'll get a message typically when it's done. OK, it says succeeded. This one is still executing. Any questions on this while this is running? I'm sorry? Yes, if there's an error, you can drill through. Typically, exports are quite, most errors that you'd get related to data validation and so on happen on import. So the import process is similar to, the import user interface is similar to this one. Once you import, once you get an error, you can drill through, and it will actually tell you what the error is. Most of the time, that error related to validation data, so to data validation. So it's an actual error you want to see. So you're trying to import and update a record, but your logic in the application doesn't allow that record to be updated. So you'll go and you'll see a staging table, and then within the staging table, you can decide to ignore the error or basically even proceed and override the validation and so on. So, oops, let me go back to. Any questions on this? Anybody in the audience has experience in implementations of AX 2012 or AX 2009? You're my only expert today. That's good. Okay, let's keep going then. So now that you have configured, so we're moving to the next stage of the data lifecycle. We have configured data, you have configured your golden configuration. The next step is to migrate data from legacy system, because rare are the companies or the customers that are coming from nowhere. You have data somewhere that you want to migrate. And this could be master data or so on. So the process for data migration is the following. You identify the data that must be migrated, master data, transactional data. You create a template for the identified data. It's the same data template concept that I shown. You create a template for those in your finance and operation. You use the template for generating the files and create the data. You deploy the data migration environment. And then you first validate the data by using tests, the data migration tests. And at the end, you seek a business sign-off on a trial balance. So once you migrate the data, before you need to go through a test where maybe you need to test closing the books and so on to make sure whatever you migrated is actually good data and it will functionally work. So that's a key part of your data migration process. The tools for data migrations are pretty much the same tools of data configurations as I show, and also some of the tools that I use in my demo. You'll be using data templates, you'll be using data entities and data packages, and you will typically be using recurring jobs or batch jobs for data migration. So now that you have migrated data or tested the migration of your data, you need to plan for cutover. Is everybody familiar with what cutover means? Okay, that's good. I'm getting yeses this time. So cutover, for those who are not familiar with it, is the process of moving data from a legacy system or code in a lot of cases to a new system. And also, it includes sometimes additional configurations on the new system. And during that entire period, your legacy system is down or frozen. So that's why cutover is important to have a good cutover plan so you minimize costs and downtime from the legacy system. So again, you identify the data that must be brought over during the cutover period. You establish a plan to validate the data, and it's going to be based on your data migration test that you have done before. And the key thing here is you perform a mock cutover. So as part of your cutover plan, you actually have to go through an end-to-end cutover to make sure it actually works after you migrate the data. For example, you close the books, you can validate and reconcile, and at the end, you need to get business sign-off that this actually works. From a tools perspective, you're using exactly the same tools as data migration, templates, data entities, data packages, and batch jobs. So you see a repetition here throughout most of the process. You are using almost the same tools. It's just different stages of your data lifecycle. Once you have completed this, you have done a cutover, you have a cutover plan, you have done cutover testing and sign-off. This is how you go live. This is the process or an overview of the process of how you're going live. You complete data configuration, you complete your data migration and cutover, and then you create service requests with the dynamic service engineering team, which is what we call our DSE teams. At this stage, you are ready to put your code and data in production. You create a request. It is done via lifecycle services. They will take your custom code that were on your sandbox, apply it to production. They'll also take your golden configuration or your database and also copy it to the production environment. So if you have a good and efficient cutover plan that works well and applies everything to your sandbox or pre-production environment, the final process is a simple database copy. The process doesn't have to be repeated on production. So you have a simple database copy that takes it from this UAT environment to the production, or from the data migration environment to the production. And this is done by our service engineering team. It's a request that you have to do via LCS. And at the end, you sign off and you go live. Now, once you are live and the system is running in production, the life cycle is not over. You have second phases of your project. You might want new configurations and so on. So in addition, we support these additional tools that or processes that work post go live. So you establish a new company and you create a new legal entity. This is, you are already in production and you start rolling out this process to a new legal entity. So for that, you use the copy LE functionality. Within the data management framework, your administrator can go to the data management framework and use the copy LE functionality to move configuration data, master data, or any other data that need to be established within that LE. You should have tested this. You should test this in sandbox or a UAT environment before you do it in production. You should heavily use data templates and data packages because they actually facilitate the process and also provide the right level of data validation so you don't put the wrong data in the system. The second typical scenario that happens post go live, if you have an update your configuration, you have a new data package, you want to do it, you can actually take a data package and also update your configuration. For that, you can either do it directly from lifecycle services or you can use the data management framework in the web client itself. Again, do this in your UAT environment before you actually do it in production. A third scenario that is also typical, you are in phase 2 of your project. You are live, but you are ready to basically bring new code, new customization, the second phase of your project to go live. But to do real reliable tests, especially functional tests or debugging, you want your production DB, you want your data to test against it. So via lifecycle services, you can ask the dynamic service engineering team. There's actually a button to have this request. We're adding a feature, I believe, next month or the month after that, for this to become self-serve. You can click on a button via lifecycle services, and a copy of your production database will be moved to your sandbox tier 2 environment. There are no limits on how many times you can do this. I know a lot of our competitors limit how many times you can copy production to sandbox and so on. You can do it as often as you'd like. But it's a key scenario, and we support it fully via LCS for you to have reliable acceptance tests on your sandbox environment before you go live with the next phase. So that process is supported via LCS. The fourth scenario is you are in a UAT environment and you run some tests on it, like closing the books or so on, but you want to go back in time to a point of time where your database was in its golden state. Or you make a mistake, or you're testing, you want to go back to a point of time to restart a new set of tests and so on. Also via lifecycle services, you can ask for a point-in-time restore. This is fully supported from lifecycle services. It is currently a service engineering request, but it will become a self-service tool also in the next couple of months. We are investing heavily in a lot of these lifecycle tools. And for us to be able to scale, the product is quite popular in the market, and we can see the number of customers. Basically, we can see the number of leads, and we're anticipating a much larger number of customers. So our goal is to scale our service more. And as part of the scaling, we're investing a lot into making a lot of these lifecycle tools self-serve. So the service engineering team will only intervene in exceptions, like an error occurs, or there is something that went wrong in the process. And last but not least, one of the things that you might run into is in a lot of cases, you need to debug a problem in production. And obviously, you cannot give a developer access to your production database, because then they're going to start putting breakpoints and messing with your production data. I mean, you cannot do real debugging on a production database. You cannot bring a system down just to debug it. So we support requesting backups of a production database and restoring it on a dev environment. This is also a service request to our service engineering team. You'll say, I want a copy of my production database. You can either put it on your tier 2 environment and connect a development environment to your tier 2, or you can actually take it and get a SQL Server backup and put it on a dev box and actually debug it there. So these are the key scenarios that we know have been happening, and these are the most requests. These are the scenarios that you get the most requests for, and we are optimizing them. Some of these are already self-serve, but most of these, if not all, will become self-service tools directly in lifecycle services. And that's the end of my short presentation. This is a 45 minutes breakout. I was expecting a lot more questions, but if you don't, we have actually 10 minutes left for questions and answers. Any questions? Do you mind raising your voice a little bit? What was? The slide deck is available. The question is how to get the slide deck. The slide deck is available to all conference attendees, just like all other slide decks. I believe there'll be a share that will be available for all people who attend the conference. Another question? Do you mind again raising your voice or maybe using the microphone?
So the copy to the legal entity, what release will that be available in the fall release?
Yes, the copy for the legal entity will be available with Platform Update 11, which I believe is in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So it's a platform feature. These come every month. Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't have to wait for the fall release. Yeah. Good question. I forgot to mention that. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all.